Okay, hello everybody. This is the examples on how to do Mathxl 10.4, finding area of a trapezoid. So first thing you're going to want to write down is the formula. Area equals 1/2 times the height, parenthesis base 1 plus base 2. So let's talk about where we find those things. The height, obviously you're looking for something that makes a 90-degree angle. So in this example of this picture of a trapezoid, this number 5 right here would be your height because it makes an H right there. Now the height is the distance from base to base. So the height is the distance from base to base, which means this 6 is one of your bases, and that also means this 10 is one of your bases. Doesn't matter which one you call base 1 and base 2. You're just going to put the 6 in for a base and the 10 in for a base. So the bases are also thought of as the parallel sides. They're the two sides that are never going to touch. All right, so I had number 2 circled. Let's just look at number 2 and use our formula to get the area. So we would put A equals 1/2 times our height. So the height, there's your H. So this 7 is your height. So I'm going to put a 7, then parenthesis, I need base 1 plus base 2. Those are your parallel sides. So it would be 8 and 12. So 8 plus 12. You can type that all in on Desmos just like that, or you can use your calculator. I'm putting 1/2 in. So 0.5 times 7 times the quantity 8 plus 12. And yes, you could do that in your head too. But you get 70 for your answer. So you would put 70 in for the blank. 70 square meters. All right, now that one's just rotated, rotated, so you would still find your height. If you look at number 5, that's the next one I clicked here. We're still finding area of the trapezoid, only the problem is some of the pieces are missing in here. So remember our formula is 1/2 times the height, parenthesis base 1 plus base 2. So let's look at our picture here. This 17 is sideways. That does not form an H, so that is not your height. This forms a height right here. So actually this piece right here, I'm going to put an X there. That would be considered your height. Let me highlight our bases. I'm going to highlight the bases in yellow. The bases are the parallel sides. So this would be one of your bases, and this entire thing would be one of your bases. So let's actually fill in our base numbers. This one I can see is 16. And then if 16 is from here to here, then 16 is from here to here. So that means the entire yellow side would be 8 plus 16, which gives us 24. So you're going to use 16 as one of your base numbers, and you're going to use 24 as your other base number. All right, now let's work on getting the height. Now the height, remember I told you, is the length from here to here. Now to get that height, I actually am going to ignore all of this and look at it as a right triangle. So you have to think back to right triangle, and you got to think back to a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if I do that, I find my 90, and this is always my hypotenuse, which is always the c squared. So I would do x squared plus 8 squared is equal to 17 squared. And I got to do that over to the side because that's going to tell me this number for my height. So x squared plus 8 squared is equal to 17 squared. Got a couple different things. You can put this in Desmos or you can do it by hand. So 8 squared gives us 64. 17 squared gives us 289. And then I subtract the 64 from both sides. So x squared is equal to 225. And if that's x squared, then I take the square root to get x by itself. and that would be 15. The square root of 225 is 15. So the distance from here to here is 15 feet. Now, if you rotate your paper sideways, you can see that this is your base, this is your height, and this is your base. So we said 16 and 24 were already our bases, so the 15 is now the height between or the distance from base to base. So I'm going to come back, pause it and re-listen if that doesn't make sense, but I'm going to come back over here and fill in the h, which is 15, the height. All right, and then I would just type that in on our calculator and get our answer. If you want to know what the answer is, it's 300. So you'd want to make sure you can get 300. All right, one more that we're going to do that's going to require a little bit of work is number 6 from the Mathxl. So this one again is also turned sideways. So first I'm going to rotate it this way and look at it in this direction. I'm going to highlight my bases again like I did before. So 0.8 is the distance from here to here. That's what I'm going to use for that base. This is my other base. It is 1.9. And that, since it's kind of in the middle of that, and there's no line here this time, that's the entire base right there. Okay, and the thing you're missing is your height. And your height would go from here to here. And I'm going to draw it right there because that's going to help me when I look at it as a triangle. Okay, now this one is also a right triangle, but this time, and this is the X, just like it was before, but this time we got to use SOHCAHTOA because I have a 45-degree angle here. So you're going to ignore the 1.9 in order to solve for that height. So for now, ignore the 1.9, that's why I'm putting my finger over it. You go to the 45, you draw your line. This represents your opposite side. Find your 90-degree angle. This is your hypotenuse. And actually, I just need the O and the H, so I'm not going to write anything else down. Now I think back to this little thing. The opposite in the hypotenuse was the word sine. So I would write down, and I'll just keep writing sideways since we're already sideways. Sine of the angle, sine of 45, equals the O side over the H side. So that would be X over 1.6. Okay, now, if you're solving by hand, you would times both sides by the denominator, which is 1.6. If you're using Desmos, this goes on line 1, this goes on line 2, and see where they intersect. Don't forget to change it to degrees. All right, I'm going to solve by hand. So times both sides by the denominator, which means times by 1.6. So these are going to cancel. And I'm going to type in 1.6 times sine 45. 1.6 times sine 45. And I get 1.13. So this is going to be 1.13. Now, this one might give you a rounding error. If this one gives you a rounding error, and you did it correctly, but you're off by a hair, just keep going. I can fix it. Okay, so now let's go back. I now have the height. So A equals 1/2 times the height, which is that 1.13, times base 1 plus base 2. So 0.8 plus, and then yellow base was 1.9. All right, and now you would type that all in on your calculator. Our final answer, they want rounded to the nearest tenth. So I know it says round to the nearest tenth, but the more digits you put here, the more exact you'll get. So when I type all that in, I get 1.5255. Tenth means one digit, so 2 does not change that. So I would put 1.5 for my answer here. Okay, so a good review of SOHCAHTOA there for us. All right, email me with questions.